All right, perfect. It looks like we're live on YouTube and on our Facebook page. So I'm just checking here while Facebook starts alerting folks that we're on.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Almost there. Okay, perfect. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, guys. I apologize for quickly leaving for a moment. Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm so excited to have Wayne Anderson with me. So before I kick it off, you know I like to do some housekeeping. I am Juliet Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, your local champion. So if you haven't already, hit the like button and follow so you can get those alerts when we do go live. Please do so. You can also find us on our other social media pages. So we're on Instagram and on Twitter at Westy Chamber. And while we're streaming this on Facebook right now, which is generally where most of you are watching it, it is also available on our YouTube channel as well. That's Westminster Chamber of Commerce for anyone that does not have access to Facebook or would prefer to watch it on that platform as well. Now, most of you know that you've been following me since March, so a lot of these videos are available in the video section of this Facebook page. They're also available on our resource hub, that's westminsterchamber.biz, COVID-19 updates page. I've included the link into the comment section of this broadcast for you. We also want to reference that right now we are in partnership with Jeffco, giving out some PPE. You may have seen that we've had a pop-up distribution site. I've posted a photo of that earlier today onto our page. If you have not already done so, feel free, if you're a small business, nonprofit, or micro business, you can fill out a quick and simple application and request PPE that's at no cost to you. So that's the only plug-in that I'll have before we transition, because I know that Wayne Anderson, he's a board director of ours, former Broomfield County and city commissioner slash counselor as well. He serves on our board, serves on the Jefferson County Business Lobby Group, has a wealth of knowledge in public policy, but he actually runs the Leadership Science Institute here in Westminster, Colorado. And they focus on a lot of services to support businesses, nonprofits, and individuals with professional and personal growth or professional development growth. Now, I want to go ahead and give a shout out because I see several people that are on here with us. Our board chairman, Brian Dice, thank you for hopping on and already commenting on the broadcast with us. Good morning to you as well. And then I see our amazing Small Business of the Year winner, woo, woo, Christine Wares. Thank you for hopping on here. Thank you for the positive thoughts as well. This broadcast is especially exciting because Wayne has shared with us about stress management tips and other things earlier on during COVID. Now he wants to address how do you support your employees, first starting out with yourself, really the managerial side, but then also listening and effectively communicating now more than ever when we're more remote, when we're isolating ourselves and creating more silos in our workforce. It might make sense for you to understand this concept a little more. With that, I'll go ahead and mute myself. Wayne, you can take it away.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for attending. Part of what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a bit. First, you need to understand I'm taking what would normally be about a half-day session, training session that we do with our clients, and I'm going to give it to you in 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, so I am going to sort of give you a drink through a fire hose, but You'll get some of the concepts. If we need to, talk later about it, we can go ahead and do that. But the bottom line is, what we need to do is start to understand what this environment does. How do we grow our people? And by the way, this is a question we get from our clients all the time. How do I grow my people in this environment? So we just think this is a perfect topic at this time. Okay, Julia, if you can fire up the presentation. So I thought, since it's going to be a lot of information, that I'd go ahead and put it in a PowerPoint. That way you can go back and look at it whenever you want. And so what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about first yourself. We're going to talk about you as a leader and what you need to be thinking about as a leader. We're going to talk about that people that they're currently in what we call the VUCA environment. If you're not familiar with that term, you'll know more about it in a few minutes. We're also going to talk about what you should know about your people before we can talk about growing them. We're going to need to understand them a little bit more. And then finally, I'll give you some techniques on growing your people, things that we've been able to apply with some of our clients and that have worked. So let's get going. First, when you're talking about yourself, there's a couple of things you should know. What is your personality style? Should you be disrupting yourself? And we'll talk a little bit more about what we mean by that. What is your leadership style? And then more importantly, what are your communication skills? So let's dig into that just a little bit more. When we talk about your personality styles, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen them, what appears to be a million of them out there. Well, in reality, there's 32 of them out there, and you know their names. Myers-Briggs, DISC, StrengthsFinder. And so people start to think, oh, well, which one of those do I need? Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It really doesn't matter. And the reason is the 32 of them that are out there, they're all built off the same research. Have you ever noticed there's always 4 answers no matter what? Okay. Well, that's why. Okay. There's 4 basic styles. Now, my partner, Danielle, she's literally weeks away from getting her PhD in industrial organizational psychology. So what did we do? Well, we took the research and we created our own. So ours is called the LSI, or Leadership Science Institute, LEAD 180. That also doesn't matter. But we also have 4 different ones. And just so that you can relate, the DISC leader, the DISC direct is what we call leader, etc. We've done literally 1,000 of these, and they come out the same. All of that, what it is, doesn't matter. I just wanted to make you aware of the landscape. But what you should know is, regardless of what technique you've used in the past or plan to use, you should understand your own personality style. And that is important because that essentially dictates how you're going to interact with people. When we see leaders who aren't interacting very well with people, the very first thing we do is we have them do an assessment based on our style. Or we look at the one that they might have done already. And once we lay out how that works and how these personality styles work, we're starting to understand why their interaction with other people are the way they are. So the very first thing we say that you should do is learn your own personality style. Next, we talked about disrupting yourself if necessary. Now people say, what the heck is that? What do you mean by disrupting yourself? You've developed your own techniques. You've developed your own way of doing things. You have maybe your own management style, or your way you approach things. This is a completely different environment. Therefore, you may need to adjust or re-look at the way you do things, because the way you do things are going to affect not only how your people operate, but whether or not they grow. Okay. Now, what's strange about being in this is usually we talk about disruptors, something coming in and disrupting an industry. And therefore there's the disruptor and then there's the incumbent. Well, in this scenario, you're both. Okay, so you might have sometimes feel a little schizophrenic, but that's okay. Okay, it'll work. And when we talk about that, we talk about the stages of our development period as leaders. And first, we're inexperienced. We don't know very much about the topic or the area or the technique or whatever. We then begin to engage. In other words, we kind of got it. We figured it out. We know about it. Okay, we could like to call that the sweet spot. And then we master it. Now that we're the people that people come to talk to. The problem is that when we get to that mastery level, we pretty much stay there and we don't change regardless of what the changes in the environment. And so what we're talking about here is we may need to change based on the environment that we're in. The things that we do, what was the name of that book? If it doesn't, what got you here won't get you there. Okay. We may have to look at ourselves. And the way we like to say it is learn, leap, and repeat. Learn, leap, and repeat. Okay. And to adjust to the environment. What we do know, though, about leaders that have failed, they didn't adapt. They didn't disrupt themselves. And we'll have some time at the end to ask some questions. Okay. When we talk about your leadership style, I'm not going to go through all of these styles, and some of these you've probably seen already, but understand and know which one you are. And if once you understand that, if that is not working in this environment, then you may need to think about disrupting. Okay? Understand your communication skills. If you are not a good listener, and learn effective listening. And that's when we get to talk about your people. You'll see that's gonna need to be a skill that you're gonna need to be very, very good at. Learn how to ask powerful questions. And by powerful questions, basically we mean the who, what, where questions, or the questions that don't generate a yes or no answer. Because what you're going to need to do as part of that development of your people is to get them to think. So in some cases, you're teaching them how to learn in this environment. Okay, so learn to ask those kinds of powerful questions, so you can understand where your people are and get the information that you may not be getting that you need to get in this environment. Okay. When we talk about your people in the VUCA environment, we're talking about volatility. They're seeing all kinds of changes and things going on. They used to get up in the morning, get in their car, go to work, be at the work all day, and then come back. When they were at home, they were this person, the home person. When they were at work, they were the work person, and then they came back to the home person again. In this environment, we talk about volatility in the fact that they wear multiple hats, right? They have to be a teacher. They have to be, they're still in their work environment. They have to, sometimes be a cook during the middle of the day when they didn't have to do that. So they're wearing a number of different hats along with being the employee. There's an uncertainty about the environment. They don't know if this is going to end. They don't know how long it's going to be. They don't know how long they have to wear these different hats. And they're being infected in a number of different ways. The environment is complex. So in some cases, it might be hitting them financially or the way they're working. We know that the way the workforce is today, there's multiple generations living in the same house. How is all of that working in terms of complexity? And then obviously ambiguity. In many cases, they have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's the environment they're in. And what it's also in terms of their work hat, it's causing them to have less personal contact. And what we're seeing in that, and actually we've even had in this series, health officials come on and talk to us about what they're seeing. And we're seeing the same kind of thing in the environments and the clients that we deal with. They have this need to belong and they can't have the same personal connections they used to. They sometimes feel lost, and if their personality styles was what we would call a diplomat, sometimes they'll feel a little disconnected, and we're seeing that in the workforce. And then sometimes they're just confused about what am I really supposed to do? If you don't have a work at home policy, then they're not sure. I mean, should I dress up when I'm on Zoom, or do I have to? Is it okay for me to be in my running clothes? Okay, so there's a confusion that they have, and we need to think about all of that. And the reason we're saying all of this is because all of that we're finding impacts their ability to grow. They're distracted by all of these things. So, what do we think you should do? One, know your employee's personality style. If it's one of those where they're quiet and they don't get involved, you're going to need to do things in this environment to get them more engaged. What is their emotional intelligence? In other words, how are they developing relationships in this environment? And especially if relationships are important to you. Now, there's other aspects to it, but that's another half-day course that I'm not going to be able to go through. Okay, what's their learning preferences? Are they visual learners? Are they auditory learners? If they're kinesthetic learners, guess what? They can't touch things in this environment. They can't get involved with building things in this environment. And so that may also impact their ability to focus and grow. And what are their work habits? Can they work independently alone? I have one of my clients that they do taxes. It's an accounting firm. And there's a couple of people that they're so used to working with other people on the taxes, they have a difficulty working in this environment where we're separated, and so we have to adjust and have them occasionally go into the office with their team. Okay, of course with um, separation. So know your employee. So what should you do? What are some of the good techniques? Utilize your people, engage them in the vision, engage them in your mission, engage them in your goals. Um, Utilize effective listening techniques in order to be able to hear how those things are impacting them or how they can help you achieve those things. Consider developing what we call a coaching mentoring model, where you have some place where they can go when they're stuck. Many times, again, because of their personality style, they can get stuck on things, not know where to go, and not go anywhere. And so things that should get done aren't getting done quite like they should, or they'll try to guess, and that may impact them as well. Okay? Learn change management techniques. And by that, primarily I'm talking about learning the change curve. Some people are having just the trouble adjusting. And what we're finding is they're having that trouble because they're getting stuck in various places on the change curve. And again, you can Google that. I won't go into detail about that. Okay, review your own culture. Your culture may have been one thing when you were in an office place or in a different environment, and now it may be different. So or may need to be different. Do you have a work at home policy? Do you know how? Do you have an interaction policy or a team policy that may need to change? And then this is just me. What we found is most of the leaders that have established a servant leadership style tends to be more successful. So that may be a file, and but a style you want to think about. And basically, it essentially allows people to develop, and you become more of a servant to them as opposed to a dictator, if you will. Okay, so we can stop the uh, and I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wayne. I know you have crammed in a lot of information into that 20-minute mark. And so I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit. For those of you that are hopping on, I see Jeff Wasden on here with us and Frank Lewis. Thank you for tuning into our broadcast. You shared on a variety of things initially to support a manager or an owner of a business. And then you touched on how do we move our employees, mobilize them a little bit more and understand what they're going through. And I liked that you shared that there's not one platform that's better than another as far as the personality assessments and tests, but if somebody is still apprehensive about taking those, what are other things that they can do to try and understand how their tendencies align with the different types of personalities that are out there?
Hold on, I'm getting on. Okay. If you saw that one picture where they're looking in the mirror, okay, just observe yourself. Are you a person who's very, very quiet all the time and care more about what other people feel and other people do? That's what we call the diplomat style. Are you the kind to take charge and just drive through things? I mean, you know your own behavior, so analyze and think about your own behaviors. If you're the one who just drives through, this calls that a direct. We call that a leader. Okay, a leader style. If you're the kind who likes to study things and get more data before you make a decision, we call that an analytic style. And then the last one is what we call the energizer. It's my favorite style. And I always like to say the energizer is the one who, when you go to meetings, they're the ones who are the funniest ones, and they're the ones who everybody seems to center around, etc. So those are really kind of a high level of the key styles. Just study yourself. Just think about how you respond to things, and then think about whether that will impact your ability to grow your people. Hopefully that's helpful to you.
No, and I think it is, yeah, because sometimes when we know what each characteristic lines out with, the more that we behave in that way, the more that we think in that regard. And so it just helps. And that's why I wanted you to kind of give some of those tips, because sometimes, we think we are very unique, and then you quickly learn that there are some things that match up to others. And we've identified that in a variety of different ways. So,
there is one more point I'd like to make about that, and that is recognize that you actually, and you don't hear this much, you actually demonstrate all of the personality stuff. You do. It's mostly during a situation, okay? So if you're a really strong leader and you have a 6-year-old, you're probably not going to be a strong leader in front of a 6-year-old, okay? Or with the 6-year-old. So you will demonstrate the different styles. What we look for is what's your dominant style, which is the one you snap back to in most cases.
And Wayne, you touched on, so this is all part of our larger topic, which is, listening to your employees, how to develop a listening strategy, especially right now with so many factors that are external out of your organization. And then when you look internally, how can you start dealing with what people are facing and experiencing it? So, in your opinion, Wayne, what are some ways that our managers or owners can communicate with employees outside of just, we've all been bombarded with surveys and polls and things like that are just continual all the time. Is it more of you have to have these types of conversations one-on-one with them? Is it more group-based? How can they, is it online focus groups? What are some unique ways that top level or senior managers can communicate with their employees outside of the traditional poll fatigue?
Okay, I'm going to have to give you one of those consulting answers. It depends. Okay, so when I say that, and remember there was a section that talks about know your employees. Understand, or know your people. Understand what it works with your people. There are some things, and I'm going to take it into an area that I didn't plan to touch on, but this is important in order to answer this question. We right now are having a unique situation that we never had before. Now, you think I'm talking about COVID. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we have 5 generations in the workforce right now. That has never happened before, okay? And then the youngest generation just started entering. They're being 15, 16 years old. They're just starting to enter. So When I say know your employees, what you do with a millennial, what you do with a Gen Xer, which is the one right before millennials, that's the parents of the millennials, and what you do with the new one, which I think they call in Gen Z, is totally different. You have baby boomers that are still in the workplace. How you deal with them is totally different. So you may want, that's what we mean when we say know your employees, because you may, the communication style for a baby boomer may be very, very different than the communication style of a millennial. So that's why I had to say it depends, because you need to understand what's the best way to do that. We were literally working with one of our clients yesterday that has 25 people in the organization. Most of them are millennials, but they also have boomers, and they also have some of the newer Gen Zs coming that they literally just hired. Okay, so they're having to adjust as a result of that. I hope that answered your question, Sonia.
No, it did, and I'm actually glad that you went off with that direction, because it shows that there are so many factors in how you are to communicate, and it's not just it's not just one specific message that you're getting across to people, because often we say we're communicating, they're not. You're not necessarily communicating in the way that they can accept that. So we talk about listening, we talk about communication and understanding what their needs are and how they've adapted to situations, things like COVID, if that's on their mind, other pressing factors being socially distanced, remote workforce, et cetera. The number one thing that they really need to go, they want to see results, right? And that's one of the things that our businesses, outside of this listening, they should come out and formulate those. So how do you communicate those results to your employees? Does that make sense, Wayne? And again, it's contingent on what those factors are, and but there can be a way that we do that to where they see that we're progressively hearing them and we're making those changes to match up what their hopes are.
Yeah, the one is, you hit it right on the head. You need to have them. You need to be clear about what your goals are, what your vision is, what your mission is. Part of the delivery of that is understanding, and I was about to say something that I didn't talk about today. I mean, at least not with you. I did a training session earlier this morning. When we talk about learning preferences, we're talking about people who learn better through audit. Oh, did I talk about that? I think I did. Auditory, one that learns about through visual, and one who learns through kinesthetic. In other words, being involved in it. So part of what you need to do is recognize that, and in the way you communicate to the people, make sure you address all of those different styles. Okay, so if it means so what does that mean? That means you may get them all together and talk to them. So you hit the auditory. You may send them copies of it. Now you've hit your visual and your kinesthetic, because they're going to play with it and maybe get back to you and say, hey, how about if we do this, that, and the other? So the key is, again, it's back to knowing your people. But if you understand that those are the three key styles that people learn, then you can communicate in ways that addresses all of those styles.
Yeah, and I think, you end up being stronger together as a team when you do understand one another's tendencies and what works the best. Danielle is on here with us, and she was sharing, self-awareness is key. That hits the nail on the head, Danielle. Wayne earlier was talking about self-assessing before we go out there and really supporting our employees. But Wayne, we are nearly at our 30-minute mark. So I'm going to ask you, is this PowerPoint something that we'll be able to share with people so that they can reference it? Okay.
Yes.
So for those of you that are hopping on here a little bit later in the broadcast, we have Wayne Anderson with us from Leadership Science Institute. And the topic that he shared on was really growing your employees, but how to do that through listening, through communicating, through understanding yourself and them as well. And then once you have listened, how do you turn that into strategic objectives that you can then communicate back to them? The overall trend and theme was understanding our personalities and the employees' personalities. We had a PowerPoint that Wayne walked us through. I did pull a lot of the comments that he made into the comment section of this broadcast, so you all can see that. And then as soon as he sends me the PowerPoint, I'll get the link uploaded into the video, into the comment section of this video. And then I'll also put it on that resource hub page, which I've included in the comment section of this broadcast. I also see Councilor Bowles on here. Thank you for hopping on. We are actually getting ready to wrap up. So I'll tell you this, whenever we do end, you guys can always rewind and rewatch this video. We have all the videos in the video section of this webpage, and they're available to you at any point in time. Give us the hashtag replay so we know which ones you tuned into and found the most valuable. And then if you try and implement some of these suggestions, ideas, or tips that Wayne has shared with us, we want to know what's worked and what didn't work. And you can do that by letting us know through comments or questions. Hey, you know, I tried this, and Wayne, it was a disaster, took your tip. And then we can take that, right? Hopefully that won't be the case. But no, Wayne can take that, and it actually helps because then he can leverage that as a case story and what areas could have been better and how else he can support you and assist. So Wayne, if people want to get a hold of you after they've rewatched this or were tuned in the whole time, what is a good way that they can either call on you or where can they find you?
Well, my cell number is 303-324-4566, and through email, wayne@leadershipscienceinstitute.com. That will, by the way, is going to be on the last page of the PowerPoint.
Nice. Thank you, Wayne. And I've displayed both your email and your phone number for anyone that's tuned in, has questions about the content that he's provided if you've tried it, and then you want to follow up with him. Or if you just hopped onto this and did not get a chance to ask the comment or a question that you had, you can always type it into the comment section or DM us so we can get back to you with our expert and his specific advice or guidance. We are wrapping up our broadcast. We'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our Nonprofit Corner with a nonprofit partner of ours. I do hope you guys have a terrific afternoon. Share this video out if you know of people in your network that might benefit. And of course, if you have not already, like our video, follow us so you can get those alerts when we do go live, and you can be on time with us at this broadcast start. Wayne, thank you so very much. Stay with me while we exit out. Have a great day.